Hello everyone, my name is Brad.
And I'm Denise. We are the hosts of World's True Crime Podcast. Every Monday, we release an episode researched by me about the most heinous criminals throughout history from across the globe.
And then every Thursday, we will release an episode from me about disappearances, UFOs, the unexplained, and strange history. To lighten up the episode, we take part in movie trivia at the time of the incidents.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts and find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
We also can be found at worldstruecrime.com. So just remember everybody, the world's not always as it seems.
No, it's not.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
The subject of today's episode is a serial killer, a type known as a process killer. A serial killer that forced mostly prostitutes and strippers into playing a real-life version of the most dangerous game, or some would have you believe. This acne-scarred, Weasley, stuttering loser is the most prolific killer in Alaskan history, raping over 30 women and kidnapping, torturing, raping, and killing at least 17. Called by a one Major Gilmour a dipple-dicked piece of shit, today we discuss the Butcher Baker, Robert Hansen. I'm Kevin Young.
I'm Dan Horgan.
And this is Torture.
That's the greatest nickname I've ever heard.
It's used a couple times in the book.
Yeah. That's my next D&D character's name.
Your next is Dimple Dick.
Hey, my name's Dimple Dick.
Dimple Dick Robert Hansen. That's going to be a character, and hopefully gets killed off quickly.
Yep.
He'll be one of those NPCs that like tries to turn on the group and then gets his nuts chopped off. Hopefully. All right, so this is obviously a podcast about the history of torture. Like we say before, that can't really have a history of torture podcast without covering these types of people. But we have to kind of separate the types of serial killers that we will cover and who we really won't kind of cover. So there's four types, but there's really three types: product, missionary, and process killers. Now, a product killer is somebody who kills for the product of the kill. So they could have the body, like Jeffrey Dahmer killed so he could have zombie sex slaves. Didn't really love the killing part of it. He just wanted what
loved the zombie sex slave part of it.
Yeah. Dennis Nilsen, the same way. Like wanted a dead boyfriend up in his little attic bonus room. And Richard Chase. Richard Chase wanted the blood, and he kind of liked the killing. But Richard Chase is a whole different thing. But he didn't really torture anybody. He just killed people and did horrible things with the bodies afterward. Then you have missionary killers who see it as, again, a mission to kill people for a certain reason. David Berkowitz, son of Sam, he told people that he killed for because a dog told him to, as the voice of God or whatever, the voice of devil, whatever you want to believe, that he did it for a satanic cult. I think he's full of shit.
Dog is God backwards, so I kind of believe that nearly.
Well, it was his neighbor. He said his neighbor's dog was telling him to kill, and it wasn't. It was probably his neighbor's son who was actually helping him kill people. But that's a whole other thing. And you got Hayden Clark, who he was a missionary killer because he thought that if he killed people, it would keep a biblical-sized earthquake from breaking California off America and pushing it off into the sea. So he thought that he had to kill people to keep that from happening.
Like ritualistic sacrifice, kind of?
Pretty much. But it wasn't like I have to kill them a certain way, and it wasn't that I have to kill these certain people. It's as long as I kill somebody, it'll keep, the earthquakes from coming. And I think he half believed that and half just really liked killing people and he wanted a reason.
Just wanted an excuse. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's process killers. Those will be the people we cover, the people who enjoy the process of killing, enjoy the process of torture. Your Bob Bordellas, your Leonard Lakes and Charles Ings, Dean Corals, H.H. Holmes, BTK. I mean, torture's right there in his name. And a lot more. But those are the ones that we will cover. Technically, there's 4 different varieties of killers, according to the psychologist: visionary, mission, hedonistic, and power. But these 3 I've kind of taken from last podcast on the left because they kind of, I think, fit a mold better. So that's what we're doing. If we get a big uproar and everybody wants us to cover Richard Chase or Jeffrey Dahmer or something, then we might bend to their will. But for right now, it'll probably just be, the big process killers who, take pride and get happiness out of killing.
You could do a bit of a sideshow, effectively, on that kind of subject matter, if you wanted to.
Possibly, yeah. If people want, if we get emails and people are like, I'd really like to hear you guys cover Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy, then, if we get enough people wanting it, then maybe we could do that, throw it up on a Patreon or throw it on an extra show or something like that. I don't know. But for now, it's going to be mostly just the process killers, and that's who we have today.
I'd be happy to just get a damn email. That'd be nice.
Well, everybody make Dan's dream come true. torturepod@gmail.com.
Like, subscribe, send us emails, stuff that is legit and nice, nothing spammy.
Yeah. So I got the majority of the material for this series from news articles online, Murderpedia. The majority from my stuff comes from the book Butcher Baker, The True Account of an Alaskan Serial Killer by Walter Gilmour and Leland E. Hale. There's several different ID channel, Oxygen channel, YouTube channel, docu-series episodes on it. I mean, a lot. And the last podcast on the left, guys, I bring them up quite a bit. But they did an amazing job with this one. So after you listen to this one, go listen to that one. Also, everybody's covered it. Morbid and My Favorite Murder and all them. So figure we might as well too. Most of the people who have read this book talk about how much they hate it. I didn't understand. It's like, well, it's just a book. How can you hate it? That it can't be that bad. And then I read it, and I realized where they're coming from. There's a lot of information in it, but it reads less like a documentation of real events and more like a true crime novella. Like a lot of it. There's a lot of drama just kind of injected into it to make it more palatable. Like the whole most dangerous game killings type thing, which we'll get into second episode.
So it's nearly like they wrote the straight to TV movie book.
Kinda. It was okay. This story's interesting, but I think we can make it even more interesting if we just tweak this or that a little bit, because the more you look at the actual things that actually happened, it kind of got less interesting because you realize like, well, he probably didn't do this and he probably didn't do that, but that's not going to sell books and that's not going to get a movie made.
Well, yeah, I suppose it's kind of part and parcel. It's obviously like we're going to cover it now though, but there's an awful lot of stuff they couldn't confirm.
Right.
So it's I'm sure it's left up to just pure and utter interpretation of assumption.
And when you get first-hand account from the killers themselves, you never know what you can really believe and what you can't. I mean, he obviously killed this person, this person, this person because he takes us directly to the bodies. But all these other people he said he killed, or all these other people he said he didn't kill, he can't find the bodies. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Kind of like In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. Everybody goes on and on about how great that fucking book is until you find out that a lot of it's just kind of dramatized because nobody would talk to him. Everybody talked to Harper Lee. So it was a whole big thing.
Can't say I've read it.
In Cold Blood?
Nah, it's one of those things. I'd have read anything along the lines of this. Like, it's right. A big kind of more just fantasy and king stuff and stuff like that.
the whole thing behind In Cold Blood, it pretty much ruined Truman Capote and Harper Lee's relationship because he was such an asshole and she was doing all the work. But that's a whole another thing.
That's like us. You're doing all the work.
Yes, but we're going to give each other credit.
Oh, yeah. He's doing all the work, people. Not me. I sit here and react.
That's all I need. Just a reaction. All right. Let's get started with the birth of a Robert Christian Hansen, February 15th, 1939, in Esterville, Iowa. His father, Christian, a Dutch immigrant bakery owner, where he worked almost every day with his wife, Edna. Now, Robert's childhood wasn't what you would call great. It wasn't as bad as what a lot of people go through. A lot of people had it worse. A lot of serial killers that grow up, you hear about their childhoods had it worse. So Henry Lee Lucas used to have to watch his mother fuck other men while his legless father scooted around in a Red Ryder type wagon and sold pencils. He was beaten almost to death with a board until he was unconscious for like 3 weeks, I think, or something like that. And he had permanent brain damage from it. So Robert being made fun of and not getting along with his father, it could have been worse.
We've all been there.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Robert's father was a fucking asshole, and he treated him like shit. But on the scale of horrible childhoods, as far as, the big name serial killers go, he doesn't have it that bad, honestly. I mean, they take care of him. Again, he treats him like shit, but he's not beating him to the point of unconsciousness. He's not going hungry, anything like that. And his father will give him some support later on, whether that support was for Robert's benefit or Christian's benefit is up for debate, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. So his father would make him work long hours in the family bakery that they had in Pocahontas, Iowa, at a very young age, which he hated. No kid wants to spend all their time working. And in his father's eyes, he could do nothing right. Now, anybody who's ever tried to hold a flashlight for their dad while they worked on a car will know that you can't do anything right for your father. Not there. Here. No, here.
Yeah.
Point it right at don't move it. I had that a lot with my dad.
Yep, so did I. Especially if my father actually thinks he's a mechanic, so...
My dad used to be a mechanic, but when the computers and cars started getting more advanced, he had to quit because he couldn't keep up. He didn't understand the computers.
Fair enough.
So anything before like 1985, my dad could break down and put back together. Anything after that, he's kind of lost. His father would actually go as far as call him useless, which is, a little much. He was naturally left-handed, and his father demanded that he use his right hand. He say that the pressure and stress of this caused the bad stutter to get even worse. I know it's a thing in like Catholicism where you're not supposed to be left-handed or something. If you go to like a Catholic
you're
school,
the devil.
They force you to write with your right hand. Might be one of the reasons my wife doesn't like Catholics all that much, because she's left-handed.
As is mine.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, isn't it to do with the whole devil on the shoulder thing?
Yeah, it's something like that. It's in the Bible somewhere that left-handed people are demons or some shit, but
same with redheads and
yeah,
everything else. Anything that doesn't kind of go inside the mold of the perfect human being in the eyes of the Catholic Church.
Anything that doesn't look strictly English.
Even though they're all Middle Eastern.
Pretty much. So what he would do for fun was go behind the bakery and throw knives and shoot his little bow and arrow. This was actually the start of a pretty successful hunting hobby. He would get some kills in some record books later in life. They'll later be removed after his crimes come to the public. But yeah, he gets some records for like sheep and bears and stuff, and he gets them put in a record, not the Guinness book, but in like Pope and Young's record book. So, I mean, if that was as far as it went, well, I'd be fine. But he wouldn't be on this podcast if that was as far as it went.
End of story. Done.
Yeah.
You got to shoot. Good shot.
On top of all the other shit, Robert was very thin, wore thick glasses, and had horrible acne. When he gets older, he will recall his face as, quote, one big pimple, having deep scars from it, and those becoming a feature of his face almost as prevalent as his eyes or nose. So not only was he harassed at home, but he was also made fun of routinely at school. Dan, I don't know about you, but I had fairly bad acne when I was a teenager.
I was lucky I didn't. I had one incident involving like a pimple, as we call them here, a spot, that was about the same size as your average family car on my nose. But aside from that, though, I got off very lucky. So.
And I got them really bad on my temples for some reason. And then on the jawline, I'd get them, and they just start to pop up, and I'd play with them for a little bit, and then they'd swell up and be all red and just poking out because they're right there in your jawline. It was just looked fucking horrible, and they hurt. And I had a cyst right here. Cysts running my father's side of the family. And I, of course, got that. And it looked like a huge, it's huge, looked like a huge zit on my face for, God, months before I finally went to the doctor, got taken care of. That was fucking horrible. So,
did you kill people because of it?
I wanted to at the time because people would make fun of me. But here's the difference between me and Robert Hansen is I got over it.
Yeah.
He does not. Now, having almost zero friends and virtually ignored and shunned by almost every girl he came across led him to a... Huh?
I was going to say, we still talk about you there?
No. I mean, you might as well. I had some friends. Not that many girls, but I had some friends. This all led to a hatred of most women who he saw as sluts, the exception being a small handful that he found respectable.
That's typical, isn't it? It's they don't like me, therefore.
Oh, they're all whores.
They're all, yeah.
I mean, I understand at some point, no girls want to be with you, so you're pissed off at them. But I mean, eventually you got to get over it. That's the thing. He never fucking gets over it. It just kind of consumes him when he gets older. All these dirty fucking sluts, you know. But that's the thing. But the women he goes after when he gets older, while he's married, so at least one woman wanted him. Actually, two, because he gets divorced. But while he's married, he's going to strip clubs and getting prostitutes, and they're more than happy to do whatever he wants for some money. So they're not rejecting him, but he's still gonna kill them all. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. So I inferiority complex is a fucking thing. Like many of these types, which you come to find out if you do any research on serial killers, he tried to become some sort of authority figure. Like Ed Kemper really wanted to be a cop. And John Wayne Gacy and Ted Bundy both got into politics because they wanted some sort of authority. Who else? David Berkowitz wanted to be a cop, I believe, if I remember right. A lot of them, look for some type of authority to get into because they want to feel that power.
Yeah.
Bob was no different. So he became, he's like 17 or 18, something like that. He became a junior police drill instructor. So not like captain of the police squad, but it's something, I guess.
And what God's name is that anyway? Like, it's just junior police drill instructor. So is he training?
So you got the drill instructor, and I'm guessing he's just like the sidekick. He's the Robin to their Batman, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. I have no idea. A junior police drill instructor. And of course, nobody took him seriously. Nobody listened to him. Nobody did anything he told them to do. He was just he was, again, just the joke, which is what his life has pretty much been up until now. So after high school, he takes the route many will and joins the Army Reserve. Again, you see that in a lot of serial killers. Leonard Lake and Charles Ng, Dean Corll, Jeffrey Dahmer. A lot of these guys get into the military. It's something for them to do. Some of them hope to go on to kill, you know. Usually these types of people get into like radio engineering and shit. They don't actually see any combat.
Yeah.
And that's either because I would like to think that it's because the military looks at them and goes, this is not the type of person we want to give a gun to.
Yeah. Like, they get psych evaluated. Surely they'd pick up on certain things that make them go, no, we can give them a job, but let's not let them shoot things. Yeah, because they'd probably shoot their own guys, or they just start shooting civilians. You see that pretty much every serial killer or process killer that we're going to cover that did any type of time in the military, you'll see that they saw rare, if any, combat. Yeah. Which is, I mean, the best. They will, however, tell people that they saw a lot of combat and killed dozens and dozens of people. When we get to Charles Ng and Leonard Lake, they talk all the time about all the people they killed, and neither one of them ever saw an ounce of combat. So, just a bunch of fucking liars. So, Bob was stationed in New Jersey. Again, it's the Army Reserve, so he wasn't going off to war. Where he received a day pass for being the USO's Soldier of the Week. And he would go over to... yeah, it's like Student of the Month. Yeah. So you see just Christian, his father's driving around saying, my son was USO Soldier of the Week. A little bumper sticker on his back of his car. Look, if they need that kind of affirmation, then yeah. But it gave him a day pass. Yeah, it gave him a day pass. So he went to New York, and because of some of the other soldiers that were with him, got him with a lady of the night for a very unremarkable evening. He wasn't left stunned by it or enamored with it. It was just, I think he puts it, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. I was going to say, look, you get out of it what you put into it. That's all I'm saying, people. Yeah. So he only has himself to blame. I can imagine he just kind of laid there terrified, but because women are scary. Damn scary. It's true. Women. They are scary, though. Women are fucking terrifying. Yeah. You can have a whole podcast on that subject alone. Except I'd be afraid my wife might hear. Men are afraid women will embarrass them. Women are afraid men will kill them. I think it's because they get embarrassed. I just could have sworn it'd probably be the other way around. I'm pretty sure that my wife's afraid that I might embarrass her. I don't give a shit about her embarrassing me. I don't get embarrassed that easily. Well, not now, because I'm talking about like when you're first starting talking to a girl and you go talk to her and she turns you down. It's very embarrassing. It's very demeaning. It even if she does it politely, it's a blow to your ego, and I think that's what most guys are afraid of when it comes to talking to women is getting hurt ego. And women are terrified that you're going to kill them because that's what happens a lot. That's a fair point. It's a valid fear. Yeah, I was getting mixed up between approaching and marriage, so I was there. Yeah. So he returned to Pocahontas about 6 months later, and by all accounts was even more fucked up than he was when he left. The police chief, Marvin Wiseman, who had promoted Bob to the rank of junior drill instructor in the first place, decided that maybe having someone like him anywhere near the police's authority was probably a bad idea, and he, quote, eased him out of the position.
So he pretty much told him, you're too old for this. This is something we set up for younger teenagers, and you're creepy, so we don't need you anymore. It didn't help that when the police chief would go to the bakery, he would see Robert in the rear of the bakery, throwing his knives and shooting his arrows. He would ask the chief after a bow shot, quote, "You can't hardly hear that, can you?" Then he'd whip out a knife, throw it, and say, "Can't hardly hear that either."
Taking notes for D&D character straight up. Every time he does an action. Can't hear that, can you? Can't hear that.
So he was just getting creepier by the day. Then, like all losers fresh out of high school do, he became the ringleader of a band of high school kids. That's how you know you have a loser in your town, is when they're pushing 20 and they're hanging out with the 15, 16-year-olds.
I'm seeing more red flags than this than you'd see in China. You know, like...
Well, that's easy. I mean, I knew plenty of guys who were in their early 20s that hung out with the really... with the younger high schoolers, because the younger high schoolers look up at them in some type of admiration. Like, oh my God, it's this guy, he's in his 20s and he wants to hang out and talk to us, must make us cool. But really, he's just a fucking loser.
So it's like, Matthew McConaughey's character in Dazed and Confused.
Yes! Yeah. Yes, it is. All right. Which, and honestly, I never really thought about it all the times I'd seen that movie when he's like, it's the thing about high school girls. I get older, they stay the same age. How fucking creepy that actually is.
Yeah, I know. It's creepy as all hell.
Yeah, I never thought about it before. Except for the last time I watched it, I was like, that's fucking creepy.
Yep.
No, it's still a good movie.
That's a great film. It's a brilliant film considering not an awful lot happens. But anyway.
I'm sure it's better than Frozen Ground.
Oh, we'll get to that later. Yeah, I'm going to have to watch that later. I'm going to see if that's on Netflix.
I don't think it's on Netflix. Might be on Prime.
Might be on the UK Netflix, see, which is the one that we have.
That's true. Yeah, you get different.
We don't have the same Flixnet as ye, so...
Yeah. Now, somehow throughout all this bullshit, he was actually able to meet a girl, Phoebe Pageant, fall in love, and get engaged. That's the thing. That's also another thing about these fugly-ass serial killers. Even though I've seen women say that Robert Hansen wasn't that ugly. I disagree. I think it was fucking hideous. But a lot of these serial killers have no problem getting a wife. Some of them have multiple wives over the course of their years. So, if you're out there, you still got a chance. If Robert Hansen can get married twice, you can find one.
Don't encourage them. Unless it's ugly people. I don't know if you're talking about serial killers here or what. But...
No, just the regular guy who thinks he's never, or girl who thinks they're never going to meet somebody.
I've no chin and I got somebody, so it's okay. You can survive.
I come with a lot of baggage, and my wife took me, so it's fine.
Yep.
So this little group of high school kids that he had, they like to create some hijinks. So they went and they blew up a tractor in a town nearby. Good, wholesome fun, except for the person who owns the tractor. And then they turned around and planned to blow up the town water tower. That's a little different than just hijinks. But what Robert really wanted to get back at was the school where he was shunned so badly. Again, he's out of school. Been out of school for a while. And he's still festering on all the bullshit he went through in school.
Yeah, and the people who put him through that are gone from that school.
Yeah, they're not there anymore. You doing something to the school.
Yeah. Get over it, Bob.
But on December 7th, 1960, they burned down the school's bus garage. And since he was part of the volunteer fire department, he got to enjoy the burning down of the building again. So the burning it, and then the coming back to put the fire out. Which I imagine he just stood there and watched. Can't imagine he's putting the fire out. Or maybe he is. Maybe he wants to be the hero that puts out the fire. I don't know. But there's no honor among arsonists, because when one of the gang got caught up by the police, he gave up Robert. That's the leader. Take him. So they went, picked up Bob. He obviously denied everything. He was given a polygraph, which not only did he fail, but he somehow let it be known that he planned on blowing up the police chief's house.
More red flags.
I mean, how do you go from I didn't do it to I'm going to blow up the police chief? It's
it doesn't sound like he has really good impulse controls.
It's something about him. And again, if the police would have taken him seriously from the beginning with all this shit, it would have saved 17 women's lives. But they don't. Yeah, and they consistently don't until the case finally goes to the state troopers and the FBI. Then they finally start taking it seriously. But the city cops...
Yeah, it's almost like they're kind of like looking at him as if he's like the town dunce. You know, kind of, that's just all Bob being all Bob.
And plus his father was big in the community. He was the town, he owned the town bakery. The cops came to that bakery to get their donuts and their sweets and everything. And he was a big presence in the town. So you're the son of somebody like that. I guess you get away with more shit. But this kind of follows him everywhere he goes. When he moves to Minnesota and when he moves to Alaska. Again, city police just, whatever.
Yeah, he just has that look about him. It's like, he's a bit of an oaf,
Oh, he's got the stutter. He's got the acne. It's like, how bad? I mean, you already feel bad for the guy. You don't want to throw him in prison. He'll get killed.
Yeah.
He'll be somebody's wife. So he ends up pleading guilty, stating that he just wanted to get it all over with and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. This whole time, his father is rallying for him, saying, my son didn't do it. He wouldn't have done this. He's going all around town trying to get people on his side that Bob didn't do anything. And it really does split the town like in half. You know, the people who were sure he did it and the people who were with Christian and sure he didn't do it. Now, this is where I get to the support Christian had for his son, because it's a question of, well, is he really supporting his son, or is he trying to save his own reputation because that's his son, and if he's doing this shit, it looks bad on him.
Yeah.
I think that's probably more.
That's probably more, yeah.
What it was. But still, Robert told his dad he didn't do it. And Christian went on to tell everybody else, my son didn't do it. He says he didn't do it. He didn't, And he rallied for a long time. After a few months of this, he finally confessed to his now wife that he had done it. So when she told his father, he said, well, fuck this. Was so mortified by the confession that he sold the bakery and moved to Minnesota.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a lot of him. I don't know if I've ever been that embarrassed where I have to move out of state.
Felt like it a few times. When it comes to child embarrassment, but sure.
Yeah. Well, Phoebe divorced him soon after that because he had lied to her the whole time, and then she didn't want to be married to an arsonist. And I'm pretty sure that her family the whole time was telling her, you don't want to marry this guy. There's something wrong. You don't marry this guy.
That's weird, Bob. Why are you doing marrying?
Yeah, ladies, if your family's telling you not to marry a guy, you probably shouldn't marry him because there's something they're seeing that you aren't seeing. I get it. I had a lot of friends telling me not to marry my ex-wife, but I did anyway, and it didn't turn out well. So, just, if you're telling you not to marry somebody, I mean, you can listen. It wouldn't. So, after only 20 months in prison, despite being assessed as having an infantile personality, Robert was released, and he moved to Minnesota with his family. And this is where he'd meet Darla Henriksen, his next wife. Now, the two would be married in 1963, and Robert finally followed in his father's footsteps and started baking in supermarkets in nearby towns, all while committing petty crimes of theft and shoplifting and getting arrested several times. So, he decided maybe it was time for a change of scenery, and they moved to the place where a lot of people move to kind of get away from their criminal record. Anchorage, Alaska, where they would quickly pop out 2 kids. Alaska's known, and I think especially the Anchorage area, Alaska's known for people who are having legal trouble or hiding out from people in the lower 48, kind of go there and get away from it all because nobody goes looking for you there because nobody's going to say anything because everybody there's there for a fucking reason. Nobody goes to Anchorage, Alaska just because. You do it for a reason.
I never heard of Anchorage before I played Fallout for some reason. I don't know why.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's my first experience of it. And then I remember being like, kind of, my God, like, I mean, it's just one of those places that's just so far from everything.
Yeah. Well, everything in Alaska is kind of far from everything. Yeah. So when they got to Anchorage, he, again, followed in his father's footsteps, and he opened his own bakery in a mini mall just down the street from the red light district of Anchorage. They called it the Tenderloin, which had blown up after the boom of oil fields. And he would, of course, return to petty theft. Now, the oil fields are going to play a huge role in this because when there's a boom town, a lot of guys coming to that town for jobs. And you know what's going to follow that? Prostitutes.
So I was going to say, the red light district was called the Tenderloin. Or his bakery. Because that would have been fucking ridiculous. We'll go open a bakery called the Tenderloin.
No, the red light district was called the Tenderloin, not the bakery. That'd be weird.
Yeah.
Get your
nice name for a
Tenderloin.
Butcher shop. But
yeah.
The strip loin. Yeah, that would have been a good one.
Well, I think it comes... I don't know, there's some saying about you were eating, like, flat steak, and now we're eating the Tenderloin because everybody was making so much money.
Nah.
Shit like that.
Right.
He was treated by the residents there pretty well. He earned a reputation as a great outdoorsman, and in 69, 70, and 71, he had 4 animals entered into Pope and Young's trophy hunting world record books, and he loaded up his den with the stuffed heads of his kills. Like the 12th biggest doll sheep or something like that. That was the sheep with the great big twisty horns. And these are all bow hunting. He had like the 34th biggest black bear, which I don't think should count. But
34th.
Yeah. What they had said is I guess they go up to like the 50th or something. But at that point, I mean, is it really even worth mentioning?
Nothing outside the top 5.
Yeah.
Worth it.
The top 10 at maximum. But I guess, I mean, I'll take top 10 bears because bears are harder to kill. Sheep, yeah, top 5. Anything more than that, it doesn't matter. Anyway, one day in 1971, he would follow one of his customers home, happened to be a secretary for a real estate agency, and he stalked her. He asked if he could use her phone, and afterwards, he left. Then he came back about a half an hour later, walked into her house, and asked her out on a date.
Just followed her back to her house and asked her.
He followed her home, asked if he could use her phone, and then he left. And then he came back, didn't knock, nothing, just walked right in and asked her out on a date. And he was surprised when she said no.
Just, oh my God.
And he got very upset. So about a week later, he came back with a gun. Now, luckily, he was arrested in the process, and the woman got away uninjured, and he went to jail for assault. He was bailed out and went right back to it. And that's the thing you see is he's got some friends. No friends that will like admit to hanging out with him, but they'll kind of help him out a little bit.
Sort out old Bob there, like
you'll see as we go along. His
Bob's
friends
up to his old tricks again. Better get him out of prison.
Yeah, if it wasn't for his friends, again, a lot of women would still be alive today, or at least would have been alive a lot longer than what they were. possibly including this young lady. So on Christmas Day, the police found the body of Celia Van Zanten in McHugh State Park, tied up with speaker wire and cut across the chest with a knife. It looked like she was able to get away from her attacker, but ended up freezing to death outside while she hid because it was -5 degrees outside that night. And she had to hide in like some bushes. And she hid there all night long, ended up freezing to death. Now, there's a question on if it was him. There are some others that fit the bill, but the motive and the way it all went down, it's a pretty good assumption that he was the guilty party, even though he denies it. He said he didn't have anything to do with it. Pretty sure he did, especially when you look at the speaker wire, because that all comes into play later. Now, during the investigation into Celia's death, a sex worker by the name of Robin Patterson told them that she had had a horrifying run-in with a man matching Robert's profile. Short, acne-scarred, and had a stutter. She said he kidnapped her at gunpoint, drove her to a hotel, forced her to have sex with him, then drove her out to bumfuck Egypt and threatened to kill her. She told him that she hated cops, she would never talk to them, so he got her parents' address out of her purse and wrote it down on a little piece of paper and told her that if he found out she had talked to the police, he would find them and kill them, like all the women he had killed before. Now, again, no proof that he had killed anybody else at any time so far. He's probably just talking shit. But she doesn't know that. And as far as she knows, he's going to kill her. Now, the thing is, she was a sex worker. All he had to do was pay her, and she would have had sex with him anyway. He didn't have to force her to do it.
He obviously wanted that control, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and what he goes on to say later about these women, you could tell it's definitely bullshit, because these women will have said they're prostitutes. They'll have sex with you for money.
Yeah.
You don't have to force them. You don't have to be an asshole. You just say, I want sex, here's some money. They will do it. That's what they are doing. That is their job. You don't have to be a fucking dick about it. A dipple dick.
Good old dipple dick Bob.
Yeah. So, and it's actually from Robin that we learn that other than the stutter and the acne scars, there was another odd part of Robert that no one knew about, that his penis was very short, but very thick.
He's like a cube.
That's where the term dimple dick came from. I thought he was a hockey puck. He's a tuna can.
I was going to say, I wonder if it was like a 1-inch cube. Yeah. It's like this little D6 die that I have here in my hand. There it is. But
apparently it was very thick. Yeah, like one of those mini Pepsi cans.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Sounds nice. Jesus.
It's like, I had a friend who used to tell me that he had a really short one, but a really thick one. He's like, I won't knock the bottom out of it, but I'll rip up the sides. Like, that's nice, dude.
Oh, Jesus. Dear Lord. It's like a fun-sized Mars bar.
Have you seen the Key and Peele white penis, black vagina episode?
No. But I will. I'm afraid to Google it.
You have to look that up.
That shit on my search history.
You'll have to look that up. Okay, so the cops were, again, really fucking incompetent here. She says, who it was. They, and he's already booked for the assault. And they have him in lockup. They're interrogating him, and they're going through his wallet. And lo and behold, they find this little piece of paper. And they're like, well, wait. Before you go through his wallet, we have to have a warrant. We can't go through his wallet without a warrant. It's like you already have him in lockup. Pretty sure you can go through his wallet. No. Got to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Got to have a warrant. So they put the paper back in the wallet and give him back his wallet. So when he goes to be processed, the cop, who apparently was a rookie, he had only been on the force for a little bit, he's processing him, and he takes his wallet and he's going through it, and he pulls out some cash, puts the wallet down, but he doesn't grab the piece of paper. So Robert's like, I think I might have some more money hidden in that wallet. So instead of looking through the wallet more, the police officer hands Robert his wallet back to pull out the extra money. And then instead of watching him, he turns around and goes back to doing whatever it was he was doing. So Robert grabs the piece of paper out and puts it in his pocket. The cop saw it, like out of the corner of his eye, and he's like, I think he grabbed something. We might need to check him. And he goes, oh, no. That's the name and number of the guy who I need to come pay my bail. So I need that. So instead of taking the paper, because they wanted to take the paper and do handwriting analysis on it to see if everything matched up. So instead of taking the actual paper, the cop takes the paper, writes what's on the paper in his own handwriting, and then gives the original piece of paper back to Robert.
What the? Oh, God.
Yes.
I can see why people don't get locked up for murders and stuff like that. Yeah.
So that evidence is now gone. They went and checked his house a little bit. They found a roll of the same type of speaker wire used on Van Zanten at his home. But
right.
His friends came, helped him out with like character stuff, and he ended up pleading no contest to the assault charge with the secretary. So they dropped the kidnapping charges for grabbing Robert Peterson and taking her out and raping her, because one was the secretary of a real estate company and the other was a sex worker.
Yeah.
One they care about, the other they don't.
I wonder which one.
Yeah, well, a lot of times sex workers are known as the less than dead because they don't matter. So this whole, with letting him, he's taking the fall for the secretary but not for the sex worker, gives him kind of a sense of omnipotence when it comes to the sex workers of the town. He knows he can do pretty much whatever he wants, and nobody's going to care because they're sex workers, and nobody gives a shit. And he wasn't wrong. A lot of people just didn't give a shit. In 1973, he would assault a school teacher that was moonlighting as a dancer. That also went nowhere because she was too scared of Hansen and the public finding out about her other job. The judge wouldn't let her use a proxy to testify for whatever reason, so she wouldn't testify in court because then everybody would know that not only is she a teacher, but she dances at night.
I can tell you exactly why he didn't allow her, is because he was appalled at the fact that she was doing this other work. Is what
exactly.
100%.
Because, people see sex work as beneath them.
It's the oldest job in the world, people.
Sex work is work. Just stop stigmatizing it. Let women do what the fuck they want to do or need to do. God damn it. If you made it legal, you could tax it and you could regulate it, and then it'd be more safe. But they don't want to do that. Because it goes against God or whatever bullshit.
Look, I don't really give a shit what they want to do. Ain't bothering me none.
Yeah. Now, with most serial killers, it's not actually the killing that gets them caught. It's all the stupid, petty shit that they can't keep themselves from doing. In 1976, he attempted to steal a chainsaw and was caught. And for this, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Nothing for the kidnappings, but 5 years for a chainsaw.
What? All right, okay. I see what way the American justice system works.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And even for that, he only spends a little over a year in prison. And during this time, a prison psychiatrist diagnosed him with bipolar affective disorder and requested that the courts order him to take lithium to control his mood, but it's never enforced.
Mm.
Yeah. He doesn't have bipolar. He's
just Looney Tunes.
He scammed them because he knew that if they thought that there's actually something mentally wrong that they can diagnose, that he can get away with more shit.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's the whole insanity thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just so crazy Bob, crazy Bob.
Yeah, just give him his lithium, he'll be fine.
Mm.
But he never fucking takes it. So this brings us up to his first confirmed murder. In the fall or winter of 1979, Robert picked up a woman known only as Yuklutna Annie. And that's because it happened near Yuklutna Lake. And he would later say he couldn't remember if she was a prostitute or a dancer. And he further recollected, I picked her up downtown and I told her I was going to take her to my home. But when she realized he wasn't driving in the direction of his home, she asked him to drive her back to Anchorage. Before he unsuccessfully attempted to convince her he was driving her to another safe location, claiming he was driving a little further, she replied, well, I'm not, and then he attempted to placate her before pulling a gun and saying, you do exactly as I say, and you won't get hurt. Now, if he planned on actually killing her or not is kind of up in the air. I don't know if he was planning on killing her or if he was just planning on raping her. But according to Bob, he drove in the direction of Yuklutna Lake and his vehicle got stuck in the mud. Now, he persuaded her to help him get his pickup unstuck. I know I might kill you, but can you help me here? So she said, okay, and then ran off. As you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. In response, he chased after her. He's very nimble and very quick in the outdoors. I mean, he's been doing it his whole life. So you're going to have a hard time running away from him in the outdoors. She pulled out a knife and tried to stab him. He grabbed her by the hair and tripped her to the ground. She struggled as he overpowered her. She screamed, don't kill me, don't kill me. And according to him, he tried to restrain her and told her that he didn't intend to harm her. But she started screaming, you're going to kill me. So he just stabbed her to death.
Just to prove her right, like. You know?
I guess. Like, I'm not going to hurt you. You're going to kill me. Well, fuck. Okay. And then he... Yes.
Okay, so...
Yeah. Her body would be found in July of 1980, buried in a shallow grave by some power lines just north of Anchorage. A few months after that first attack, he tried it with another woman, and she was actually able to escape. She got free from his camper, and she ran to a stranger's house naked with her hands cut up from being tied up with speaker wire.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I see a pattern emerging here.
Yes. And so that, again, is why everybody's pretty sure that he killed that poor woman who froze to death, or tried to anyway. I would still say, I would still put him, up for attempted murder, maybe second-degree murder, since he didn't actually kill her, but she froze to death because of him.
Yeah.
I guess that would be manslaughter, but... Anyways, since this woman, who I don't have her name, she was a sex worker or a stripper, the cops took his word over hers, and again, nothing was done. A few months later, a woman by the name of Roxanne Eastland was staying with her boyfriend at the Budget Motel in Anchorage, where they were supposed to meet an unidentified male downtown that day. That was the last anyone had seen or heard from her. The next was 24-year-old Joanna Messina. Now this poor woman. So the two met near the docks in Anchorage, and they went out on like a date. It seemed like he had no actual intention on killing her. See, he said,
was that the first thing? Hey, nice to meet you. Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you.
Well, when they're going over all the marks on the map, which we'll come to talk about in a next episode, when they come to talk about all those points, he's like, "Well, that's Joanna Messina. That's where she was. I hadn't intended on killing her when we met up.
That was an accident."
Yeah. Well, he claims that he didn't intend to kill her. But she told him that she would have sex with him for money. And apparently she had to really she kind of went at it subtly at first. And then she flat out just said, "Look, dude, give me some money and I'll fuck you." Okay. And then she went from being one of the respectable women that he wouldn't do anything to just another slut. And then she had to die.
So what he did then was he took out his party-sized Mars bar and said, "Bet you didn't even hear that."
Couldn't even hear it. I think he was going to kill her either way. Just
wanted an excuse.
Didn't know when. Yeah. Now, so her body, she's known as, I believe they called her the Bear Lady. So her body was found in a gravel pit on the Kenai Peninsula. But it wasn't people that found her first. It was a black bear. So by the time the police had gotten there, about half of the body was gone.
Dear Lord.
And then the bear came back. So they got there, half the body's eaten. Bear comes back when the police are there. So
Bobby shoots it. It gets 34th largest black bear kill ever.
Well, see, now they have a conundrum because they don't want the evidence to all be eaten, but black bears are a protected species. So it was either, don't let the evidence be eaten or kill the protected species. They ended up killing the black bear, but the uproar from killing the bear almost completely overshadowed the investigation. There was real uproar over this. You killed a black bear in Alaska. How dare you? It was a woman. Okay.
Yeah, just no, you killed a woman in Alaska. How dare you? You killed a bear. How dare you? There's plenty of those women around.
Well, it's black bear prostitute. If it had been a black bear or a white woman who was coming up in the world and had money, then yes, you saved the woman. But black bear prostitute, that's different.
Yeah, it really shows you where they are on the totem pole.
Yes, well, them and minorities pretty much are all in the same area as far as policing goes. Anyway, by this time, Robert had gotten himself a variety of costumes and disguises, including, but not limited to, his beloved fake mustache, which he said made him look more handsome because he wasn't very much to look at, so a mustache couldn't hurt. He also had some suits and some small prosthetics that he would use. And he also
sorry, I have this image away.
Hopefully put it down on the fun size Mars bar.
No, those really, really cheap, crappy like Halloween mustaches you can buy that are just a very obvious curly one that just is a piece of black felt. I just imagine them walking around with that big happy head and going doo doo doo.
Well, I imagine it's the glasses with the nose attached and
the plastic one.
Yeah. Fuck. He'd also stopped picking up women and driving them straight off the street or from a strip club because that's what he was doing before. He'd see them on the street, offer them some money, they'd go off with him, they never come back. Or he'd go to the strip club, pick them up, they go off with him, never come back. So and this is actually kind of smart, I guess, as long as nobody sees you, he'd actually make a date with them. And they'd usually meet at a bar or a restaurant. From what I heard, it was a Wendy's a lot of times. And he would sit in his car long before they were to meet at the location, and he'd wait. And they would arrive, and he'd wait a little longer. They'd go in, and he'd sit in his car, make sure that nobody came along, and nobody was waiting for them in the parking lot, because that would ruin the whole thing. So when he was sure the coast was clear, he'd go in, they'd eat, they'd load up in his vehicle, so they could go to a second location, usually for a paid photo shoot. That was usually the entire reason for the date. But once in the car, he'd pull a gun, and they'd head out to the wilderness. So another woman by the name of Lusa Frutrell went missing September 6th, 1980. Her body won't be found for 4 years.
Dear Lord.
That's one of the bodies that he will lead the police to.
How the hell does he have time for this shit? He's married, has 2 kids.
Yep.
Owns a business.
Yep.
And
yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. We can't even find time to play D&D.
Yeah, he's finding the time to do this shit.
He's racking up. Well, okay, so him and his wife didn't always get along. She
better
went and
KD ratio than I do on fucking Call of Duty.
She went and spent a lot of time with her family. She'd take the kids. So he had a lot of time at home alone. I would imagine he probably had some employees at the bakery who were doing the majority of the baking. He actually, when he gets arrested, gets arrested at the bakery. So he does go there at some point. And he makes a lot of contacts with the bakery. He's friends with the police down at the bakery. So he is there a little bit. But yeah, that's a good question. How does he find time for all this shit?
Yeah, I barely have time to scratch yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually thought one thing that I thought was really funny because, so you had sent me a bit of a background video to watch on him, and there's a scene that shows a recreation of him in the bakery, and he's standing in the window and making the flowers out of buttercream, right? And I love a bit of baking, so that my wife and I are getting into it now as well. We're watching tons of these shows, and we're going to be learning how to do these fancy cakes and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But you could tell the person they got in to do that scene didn't have a clue what the hell they were doing. Because they had this cake and they had these lovely looking flowers on it, and here they are, this wretched, just throwing it on. And then when it shows them actually
looking out the window.
Yeah, and when it shows them actually putting onto the cake, then it's like a proper legit looking thing. But then I was it's just looking at it going, this guy hasn't got a clue. It's just hold this, you're going to be making a red flour, and he's basically with the bag. It's there you go. But anyway, it's just what I thought of the bakery. I just had that image in my head. I was I have to say this to Kevin now, because this is just some of the best acting I've ever seen.
Well, I don't think they go top tier for some of those recreations. I think they just get whoever they can get.
Oh, of course, yeah.
They don't have any speaking lines or anything. So now, a little over a year after Lisa goes missing, Robert offers Sherry Morrow, a 23-year-old topless dancer, $300 for a photo shoot. Now, this is November 1981. $300 then would be worth about $930 now. That's hard to pass up when you're in your early 20s in Anchorage. I mean, if I'm in my early 20s and some guy pulls up and says, hey, here's $930 for a photo shoot, I'd probably fucking do it.
Yeah, what way do you want me to?
Yeah.
You
want me to spread or what? No touching. That's it. Robert did his thing. He got her, wrapped an ace bandage around her eyes, and tied her hands, and drove her to an old lean-to out on the banks of the Knik River. Her body was found a year later in September in a shallow grave with 3 bullet wounds in her back and the cartridges to a .223 Ruger Mini 14 nearby. Hunters don't usually pick up their casings. So that actually works out well because, you know, he did a lot of bow hunting, but he did gun hunting too. So I guess he just wasn't used to picking up his casings after he'd shoot an animal. So they'd just be laying there, and he left those there. And I mean, you're going to kill somebody. You take the fucking casings with you, you dumbass.
It doesn't seem all that bright. No, that's...
No. Yeah, no. It's fair. So the story he eventually tells is that he got his truck stuck again. So Sherry took the opportunity to run again, but her hands were tied and she still had the wrap over her eyes. And I hate to laugh, but holy shit, at least pull the ace bandage up when you run, because he caught up to her very quickly and just shot her in the back. One of the reasons it took so long to get an ID on her was that when her boyfriend reported her missing, he said that she always wore a gold arrowhead necklace he had given her. There's no necklace at the murder site. There's a reason, and we'll get to it later. Now, a little over a month later, 22-year-old Andrea Altery would go missing. Her body would never be found. And next would say it'd be his most egregious crime, one compared to the killings of the sex workers: insurance fraud. Yeah. Now when we get to the main detective on this, he really obsessed over this insurance fraud. He feels like he could tie it all into everything. So what he did, he staged a burglary at his home where he had said several of his trophy heads had been stolen, when in reality he just took them out of the house and hid them. The insurance company paid him $13,000, which seems like a lot, but today that would be worth just over $37,000 for some fucking heads.
Yeah. That you just put in a wardrobe.
Yeah. A little bit of information is that I believe he filed this through State Farm Insurance, and his friend, one of the ones that kept bailing him out, was actually the manager of State Farm Insurance in Anchorage.
All right. And he's like, hey, why do I have these heads sitting in my garage that this dude asked me to mine for 10 minutes?
So he would take this $37,000 or $13,000, $37,000 a day. He would take that and he would buy a small single-engine plane, which would ramp up his terrors against the sex workers and strippers of Anchorage. He would also fly out to remote cabins, steal a bunch of their shit, and then take off, temporarily quelching his desire for a small amount of power and chaos, but also leaving tire tracks. And that's where we'll pick up for part 2 of Robert Hansen with his upcoming Most Dangerous Game Murders and Cindy Paulson, otherwise known as The One That Got Away. Yeah, so need to thank World's True Crime for starting off the show today. You can get them wherever you listen to your podcast, wherever you're listening to this. Just get on over there and listen to them. I'll have a link to their show in our show notes, so just go there and click and go listen. But speaking of Cindy Paulson, in the book she's called Kitty Larson. There's a few people that they try to leave their anonymity, and then so they call Cindy Paulson Kitty Larson through the book, and then 2 years after they published the book, she puts out her own book with her real name on it about what she had went through. So
nice.
Well, they protected your
well, then she wouldn't have gotten as much money out of it then, obviously. The fact that she had the legit one then.
The shit that she goes through, she deserves to make as much money off of this as she wants.
Yeah.
It's absolutely horrible. I don't know if you got... I'm sure you watch the thing, so I know you know what she goes through, but it was fucking horrifying. I'll have credits for the reference material in the show notes like normal. You can follow us Twitter, Instagram @TorturePod. Contact us by email, torturepod@gmail.com. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen. And I think that's it for this one. All right.
See you in episode 2 then.
Yep. See you in episode 2. Couple weeks. All right, guys. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.